My name is Sylvester Bowie. I'm coat of arm of the college. You'll see the flame and the cross and the book. And what more fitting design for a college. And as the founding principal, Dr. Simon Clark would say, service, commitment, excellence, service, commitment, excellence, service, commitment, excellence. Those are words that are ingrained in every Sam Sharpe student, but especially those of us that attended in the early years. I attended Sam Sharpe 1978 to 1981. My group, the 78 batch, we were the first group after the pioneers graduated. So the pioneers came 1975 and graduated 1978. And the group that I belong to, we started 1978 and graduated in 1981. Here is a piece of history to add to this historical record or story being told. Congratulations, all pioneers, the graduating class of 1975, from the Board of Governors, the principal, and the staff of Sam Sharpe Teachers College. And this is a keepsake that should bring back a lot of memories to some of the people who were in that pioneering group, most of whom are still alive, some of whom have passed on. We salute you for this memory. The historical record. This slide shows, or at least part of the slide shows, the then Governor General, and I want to read a part of the message that was shared by the Governor General. And by the way, the Governor General then was Sir Florizel Glasspool. And he said, I am more than pleased to send you a message to your magazine, the aim of which is to commemorate the actual opening of Sam Sharpe College in 1975 and to take note of the fact that the first batch of pioneer students will shortly be leaving. I'm pleased because despite the fact that fate decreed that I would not see my work for the establishment of that college completed, I feel very proud that it was my decision when I was Minister of Education in 1972, which caused the college to be sited where it is now. Originally, it was planned to site it in Savannah Lamar. On my becoming Minister of Education again in 1972, and after looking at the relevant facts, I decided that the college should be sited near Montego Bay. Assisted by the Honorable Howard Cooke, eventually it was constructed where it is now. I became Governor General in June 1973, and so I could not see my mission accomplished. That has made me no less proud of the contribution I made. I'm going to move on to towards the end of the Governor General's statement. The mere name of the college should give the student a special sense of purpose in their career. Sam Sharpe was confident that half measures could not achieve his goal, but he mixed nerves of steel with a sense of humility. The graduates have a great deal to learn from the life of Sam Sharpe. May they be pioneers in this new Jamaica we're trying to build, but let them always remember. And the quote is, in this world, a broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. End quote. That's the message from Sir Florizel Glasspool, the Governor General, who, in his words, was the Minister of Education when Sharpe Teachers College was conceived, and the idea of locating it in the place it now sits in Granville, St. James. Next, we have the message from the sitting Prime Minister then. And he says, I'd like to congratulate staff and students of the decision to publish a magazine to mark the graduation of the first batch of students. May I, at the same time, extend special greetings and congratulations to the graduating class on the completion of your course of study and offer my best wishes for a satisfying and rewarding teaching career. Michael Manley continues, no nation can progress unless its people are educated. This is particularly true in developing countries like Jamaica, which suffers from a shortage of skilled personnel, not only to take advantage of available technology, but also to create technologies appropriate to our need and level of development. This is why the work you do is of such vital importance. You begin the process of education, inculcating in your student the attitudes to work and to the nation which will fashion their behavior patterns in later years. He says Jamaica need dedicated and disciplined people who work for the development of the nation for no other reason than through a sense of patriotic commitment and love. We need people who have developed the capacity to look at our resources and realistically set their goals based on our capabilities. None of this will happen overnight, and none of this will happen unless you yourselves are committed to the development of the nation. In the days ahead, you will have to improve, adapt, and exercise your imagination to devise means of motivating students to their particular love of country, and also an acceptance of your motto, commitment, service, excellence. I am confident that you are equal to the challenge, and I send you my best wishes, Michael Manley. And the leader of the opposition, Edward Seaga, it is for me a special privilege to be able to send a message for inclusion in the magazine being put out by the batch of student teachers to graduate from Sharpe Teachers College. You, the first batch of graduates, are to be envied for the exciting future which I'm sure lies ahead of you. And I urge you in your undertaking to project the image and the ideals of our national hero, Sam Sharpe, for whom your college is named. I have every confidence in your ability to work for the betterment of your country and to be a credit to it. And I send you my best wishes for success in your chosen profession, Edward Seaga. Also, making contribution at that time to the magazine was the Honorable Howard Cooke, Sir Howard Cooke, he later became. He was at the time the Minister of education when the college started. But then at this time he was, I'm trying to see his, oh, he was the Minister of Public Service. Um, Also sending greetings was the current Minister of Education, the Honorable Carl Rattray, the Member of Parliament, Francis Tolo, and the board, the leader was E.A. Barrett. And I do want to share a message from the chairman of the Board of Governors. My first thought is one of gratitude to you all for the splendid cooperation you gave at the time of the entry of the college. Your Board of Governors and your principal ventured to bring you in spite of the many uncertainties with which the new college was faced. They were rewarded and gratified by your spirit of adventure and the willingness, nay, the eagerness with which you set about the job of laying a sound foundation for those who would follow you. You will carry the same spirit of vision enriched by 3 glorious years of living together into the new Jamaica that is building around you, and you will have, every one of you, much that is of value and credit to contribute to it. So the Board of Governors, led by E.A. Barrett, then went on to identify some things to suggest that you follow, and he has 4 things that are of import. He said, I venture in all humility to suggest here some that I now consider to be of importance. And these are: 1, the pupil is the most important member of the school. After all, without him, there would be no school. He deserves as much respect from the staff and the principal as they do from him. 2, the principal and the staff should always remember that they are, by law, fully responsible for their pupils' moral and physical safety from the moment the pupils enter upon the school compound until the moment they leave it. 3, it is extremely easy to lose the confidence of those you are supposed to guide. It is well nigh impossible to regain confidence that has been lost. And 4, the teacher must never be influenced by gossip. In fact, should never hear it. He should warn anyone bringing secret information that they may proceed only at the peril of being quoted. I wish you all many happy years of association with the youth of our country. E.A. Barrett, from the chairman of the Board of Governors, Sharpe Teachers College. And so you see a shot of our hero, Sam Sharpe, after whom the college is named. And let me just read this portion that says, Sam Sharpe was the man who inspired the 1831 slave rebellion, which began on the Kensington estate in St. James, and which was instrumental in bringing about the abolition of slavery, and I'll add, in Jamaica. Sharpe, who is said to be born about 1780, was the slave of an English lawyer who gave him his name. He was described as stocky with a handsomely molded frame. Sam was well treated by his master, received special privileges, and as a result became quite literate. He read the newspapers and was aware of the efforts made in England for the abolition of slavery and the opposition to the scheme by the local planters. As a result of the work of the missionaries, many of the slaves became religious, and their Conversion to Christianity gave them faith in the future and hope that Christians in other places were fighting their cause. Sam Sharpe became a deacon of the Baptist Church and a leader of a mission church. Religious meetings were the ones he attended, the ones permitted at the time, and Sam Sharpe used these meetings to communicate his concern and to encourage political thought about events in England which affected the slaves in Jamaica. Sam Sharpe, Daddy Sharpe, the one that guides the thinking of service, commitment, and excellence. The first principle of Sam Sharpe Teachers College is none other than Dr. Simon Clarke, the beloved, the adored, the one that these students from 1975 to 1979, even today in 2020, speak adoringly of, because of his visionary work, of his pioneering work, of his selfless dedication to the people of Western Jamaica, to the students who grace the halls of Sam Sharpe Teachers College. And many of us, myself included, will always remember Simon, as some of us affectionately called him, when he would say, remember, service, commitment, excellence, service, commitment, excellence. From Dr. Simon Clarke, Sam Sharpe Teachers College began operating on September 29, 1975. This institution, which was built by a joint venture of the government of Jamaica and the World Bank, admitted 150 students, 39 of whom were men. They came from all parishes of the island. We can well remember that first day when bewildered-looking students made their way up the hill, through the mud and the grime of unpaved roads and piles of freshly mixed cement. The concrete blocks, the building were not ready, and the contractors thought that we were out of our minds to even think of starting on that day, but we did. The water and the electricity were not fully connected, and the only furniture we had then were beds, classroom desks, and chairs, and basic kitchen equipment. The pioneer students immediately had to fall on a number of chores. They had to fetch water from a tank some distance away and had to begin the cleaning up operation. When this was done, since there was hardly any topsoil anywhere, earth had to be brought and spread and grass planted. The original landscaping was done by this group of students. After a week of orientation, their courses began. Early childhood and primary education were the two areas of emphasis. The objective of the college are fourfold, and these are they: to give our students 1, a sound academic training; 2, a sound professional training; 3, opportunities for the fullest possible personal development; and 4, to show students how to use their academics, their professional, and their personal accomplishment for the community development. We see the role of education as being essentially connected with the community development and the improvement of the quality of life of the lives of the people. Students, therefore, have been required to participate in at least one approved community activity. Some of these activities are story hour and art sessions for children, youth club work, home visitation, work with senior citizens, Jamal, community recreation, and basic education class, running a day school at the pediatric department of the Cornwall Regional Hospital for hospitalized children. The college has also begun a service program to schools in which equipment for science, physical education, and the teaching of reading is made available on loan to primary schools. The program began in schools which we have placed interns, but will be extended to other schools as soon as our resources permit. Schools in this program are serviced by a teacher resources van, which was procured through the assistance of the Canadian University Services Overseas and the Rotary Club of Calgary, Canada. The van was equipped and stocked with assistance of the Overseas Book Center and the Ministry of Education. The enrollment of the college at the end of June 1978 stood at 468 students. Further expansion will depend on the construction of Phase 2 buildings, which will take in an additional 200 students for courses in secondary education. I wish to thank the Board of Governors, our teaching, administrative, and ancillary staff, and all our students for their great support in getting this institution off the ground. My best wishes go to our graduates. I must remind them that whatever they do must be done with, here we go, Simon Clark, service, commitment, excellence. Service, commitment, excellence. Simon A. Clark. This is at the end of the 3 years for the pioneering student, having come in 1975, and we're now getting ready to graduate in 1978, the very year that I attended. I do want to go back to the things that Simon Clark mentioned, Dr. Simon Clark, about how students were being required to participate in these community activities. And that included the story hour, art session for children, youth club work, home visitation, work with senior citizens, Jamal, community recreation, and basic education classes. I became a social worker, and I'm now a professor of social work. And I think the seeds were planted because when I attended Sam Sharpe in 1978, these work study programs had expanded. But when you look at the base of these work, like home visitation and story hour, art session, this is core social work. And so I, as a social work educator today in 2020, I look back with fond memories of our work study program and realize that the seeds were being planted for me and many others for the work that we'll do later on in life. Thank you, Dr. Simon Clark, for being the visionary that you were, are, and continue to be. May God continue to bless you with long life. Here we have a list of some of the pioneer staff members. I'm not sure how much you can see, but I can recognize Dr. Simon Clark, Father Cohen. I can also recognize Mr. Stewart, Mrs. Miss Joy Mighty, and the second principal of the institution, and that would be Dr. Cecile Walden, and the Mrs. Cooke. No, that's not Mrs. Cooke. She taught history of education. I'm drawing a blank. I know somebody will help me with that name. And the lady at the back between Father Cohen and Mr. Stewart, I also know her name, but I'm drawing a blank. So those are pioneer. And then the Bursa is below. And of course, Matron Gray is right here. I could never forget Matron Gray, because she was certainly one of my saviors. And the administrative staff, I know all three people here, and I just need to remember their names. Um, and that will come, I'm sure, with another video. But again, I mean, in another photo. I know the pioneers will recognize these people, and I'm sorry I'm not able to fill in the blank as much as I wanted to. I know the faces and just not remember the name as we speak. This is a picture of the main building that was the main administrative building, and an accompanying shot of the coat of arms, again with a flame, the torch, the cross, and the book. Service, commitment, excellence. Service, commitment, excellence. And now we take you down memory lane. Some of you will have pleasant memories as you see your own pictures or your own picture, or pictures of your classmates, some of whom are still alive, still friends of yours, others have passed on. May their soul rest in peace. And I guess I'll call some names. This is Dorothy Anderson, Nora Authors, Lena Archibald, Laurel Barnett, Julian Beckford, Maxine Bera Singh, Cinderella Bennett, Nalda Black, Colin Bent, Lynette Boyd, Beverly Bremer, Audley Brooks, Audrey Brown, Norma Brown, Paulette Brown, Vivienne Brown, Paulette Buckner, Hilary Blake, Naomi Campbell, Claudette Cole. And of the next group, this is Margaret Campbell, Mervelina Carney, Paulette Christie, Monica Craig, Joyce Drummonds, Marita Daly, Weston Dawkins, Leonie Del Rish, Desmond Dorman, Joycelyn Downer, Carmen Ellis, Barrington Fernandez, Elsa Freeman. This is Elsa Freeman right here. Barbara Gale, Jacinth Gray, Faye Gale, and the only other name I can see here is Harry Graham. The friends, family members are these people, these three people whose name I'm not calling, will forgive me. And we continue with a list of pioneers. I think we've called this list before. And from this side, Icoline Simpson, Jeffrey Smichael, Albert Smith, Unita Smith, Ida Smith, Lawrence Smith, Paulette Smith, Carlene Soares, Rainford Trail, Lily Turner, Marlon Thomas, Leona Thompson, Pansy Thompson, Florence Wilkinson, Hilda White, Yvonne Woolcock, Dolores Waite, Herman Walker, Maureen Watson, Selma Wauchope. And the final list we have here: Rowena Whitelock, Bethune Wilson, Joycelyn Wilson, Petrona Wilson, Clarice Williams, Vinette Walker, Imogen Williams, Jennifer Williams, Leslie Williams, Michael Williams, Norma Williams, Winifred Williams. And I know Leslie Williams is still at this business of teaching. He is currently in the Cayman Islands. And we say congratulations to all these pioneering members who are still making their mark and making their contribution to education the world over. Academic staff are here, and I'm not going to attempt to identify people here because I'll just continue to bumble over. But we certainly can recognize Principal Simon Clark and later Vice Principal Cecile Walden, who became the second principal. I can recognize Mr. Cooke, the music teacher, and I can certainly recognize Mr. Stewart and Joy Mighty beside him. I can also recognize Reverend Green, who is still ministering in the Florida area. And then on the back, I can recognize Father Cohen. Then there is and I recognize the faces and will make no attempt to call names of these people. As we continue this historical journey, we move on to the class of 76 and 2. Okay, I moved that too fast. The class of 76, that's G2 and H2, K2 and L2. So these are the second group of students that came in after the Pioneer, and you can certainly pause the video to see and identify members in here, and I'll not attempt. On here we have the great Alma Lawrence. The heading there is Able Alma. It said during the past 3 years, Sam Sharpe's most successful sport personality has been Alma Lawrence. At the 1976 Intercollegiate Meet, she won Sam Sharpe's maiden and only medal, a gold in high jump, equaling the meet record. This performance led Alma's selection to represent Jamaica at the 3rd International Caribbean Student Athletics Meet held in the Dominican Republic on May 4, 1977. Of the 6 medals Jamaica won, Alma got 2, a silver in the high jump of 5 feet 2.5 inches, and a bronze in the long jump. The 78 Intercol Athletics Meet saw Alma once again among the medal in the high jump, and she managed to gain a silver with a leap of 5 feet 3, and the long jump of bronze was her reward for a jump of 17 feet 2.5 inches. We thank her for her contribution in college sport and for helping to establish Sam Sharpe on the Teachers College map. That is Abel Alma. Other sport team include football and netball, as well as cricket for Sam Sharpe. Then the class of 77, and right away I can start because these were my seniors since I arrived in 78, and I can start to see people I recognize. I recognize Bello. I recognize Bishop, and that's M2, K2, and L2. And for those of you, and by the way, on the front row here, M Chambers, G Francis, that Gillian Francis, whose valedictory message I will read at the end. There's M Chambers, G Francis, J Fraser, C Clark, M Reed, G Scott, M Baker. Second row, P Bell, and that's Bello. B Flowers, P McGregor, L Williams, P Smart, E Johnson, G Bartley, C Graham, and then on the back row, Mackenzie, McInnes, Williams, Linton, Campbell, Hay, Tullock, Senior, and Ferguson. Then in K2, we had Prescott and Pettigrave and Wedderburn and Lawson, and you're not seeing them, so I better not continue with the name calling. And these are some of the graduates from the class of 76, and I can readily recognize Aljo. These are the people after the pioneer. And I guess we have Nori Affleck, Ernest Aljo, Louis Anderson, Janet Andrews, Donna, I can't make out her name, Lola Hilton, Carol Balls, Lorna Beckford, and we have, can I make out his name either? And we have Beverly Bernard, Carmen Bernard, Milton Blackwood, Marjorie Balgrove, Tessa Blair, Ivy Blake, and Ferdinand Bright, Mr. Bright in New Jersey. We have Desiree Brissett, Jasper Brown, Lloyd Brown, Valerie Brown, Verna Brown, Daisy Bryan, Vinell Bryce, hey Brycey, Charmaine Buchanan, Audley Campbell, Idris Campbell, Michael Campbell, Monica Campbell, Nathan Campbell, Norma Campbell, Zena Campbell, Laverne Chin. Those are graduates from the group after the pioneers. We have just historical document report on the physical education seminar and the ecology field trip April 17 through 20, 1979, and I participated in that ecology field trip. The lectures and activities were divided into 4 areas according to the division of ecology, namely terrestrial, aquatic, seas, rivers, oceans; C, wetlands, swamps and marshes; D, water quality, addressing pollution. Each topic had a lecturer from NRCD. The practical areas consisted of sampling of the freshwater habitat and a study of the cast compound. So that's the ecology field trip and a report. By the way, the report on the physical education seminar was presented by none other than Mr. Patrick Bell, the man I beat in the 400 meters finals in the house meet that would take me to the intercollegiate championship in Kingston to participate in the medley relay. Mr. Patrick Bell, may his soul rest in peace. Graduates, and I think these are some pioneers. No, these are the group after the pioneers, because I see
I'm on it. The International Congress.
I see Munchie. I can recognize Munchie over here. Munchie would be Pauline Frey. And I also see Elcida Garrison. This is Elcida right here. And I'll mention Avril Dawkins, as well as Hilbert McPherson. No, Farguson. Hilbert Farguson is right here. So these are some of the names, not calling all. And again, members of their class, classmates, family members, friends, people who are still with us today being productive, and unfortunately, people who have passed on to other shores. I do recognize Burl Hilton. Burl Hilton is here. Carol Horton, right above Burl. And I see Oliver Green from St. James, the namesake of a friend of mine from St. Anne. I see Mr. Easton Lawrence, another St. James person. Miss Lorna Mito. She was from Westmoreland, Lorna. Holly Martin from St. James, and Morris Rowe from Kingston. Again, some of the graduates. And I recognize Richard Morris, who is here, and Miss Claudette Lewis. Again, some of the people that you'll see in this group. Just mention some names: Coralie McKellar, Richard McKnight, Maldana Nedrick, Indiana Peart, Harold Philpott, Mr. Philpott from St. Anne, and Miss Janet Rayson from Westmoreland. Oh, and then here is Mr. Redway. Mr. Redway. His mom also did field work at Sam Sharpe. And then here is Mr. Michael Riggs, now living in Florida. And Sheila Richards. And by the way, Mr. Harold Philpott is from St. Anne, my parish. Then the infamous Mr. Glennis Rose, like a big-time journalist, Mr. Glennis Rose, and Miss Pauline Rose, and Mr. Gart Thompson, Gart. Then there's Jean Stewart, and Janet Symister, and Alice Taylor. And then I see another Thorpe, Kendrick Thorpe, and Philip Tomlinson, and Joan Tomlinson, and Hilda Tomlinson, and Jean Stewart. And I see Amoris Samuels Henry. Again, these are all graduates of Sam Sharpe during those years, 1975 through 1980. Who do you recognize here from the class of 77? There is Hyacinth 1, Lloyd Wilkins, Marjorie Wiggins Williams, Wilfred Williams, Maisie Wilson, another St. Anne person, Merle Wilson, and Roderick Wilson. Hey, Roderick. Theresa Wilson, Winsome White, Shirley White Barnett, another St. Anne, Rose Wright St. Anne, Herbert Wright from Clarendon, Carl Young Grant from Clarendon. And these camera shy folks included Renford Bowes, Billmore Johnson, Bernard Johnson, Zena Lewis, Dorothy McKenzie, and Ruth Spence. No photos provided for them. And then over here, I see Basila Allen. I know her well. Another St. Anna Ochi. She used to teach at Ochi Primary. Gralden Allen, Una Atkinson, Barbara Baker, Yvonne Barrett, Millicent Barrett Whitaker, Lesma Barrett, Anita Barrett, Gloria Bartley, Laura Lee Baxter. I know these folks here, all my seniors. Miranda Bennett, Velda Bennett, Amy Balgrove, and then Sir Vincent Bishop and Sheridan Birch, Ivette Bernard, all my seniors. So these are people from the class of 77 that graduated in 1980. And again, the valedictorian speech that I'll read is from that group, from the class of 77. And here more of this class. Again, Michael Clark, may God rest his soul. I know he has passed. Evan Clark, I remember him. Carter, Cleve Carvalho, Patricia Channer, Lynette Chisholm, Violet Campbell, Velda Campbell, Marlene Campbell, Leroy Campbell, Valerie Blake, Alvis Brown, Carmen Brown, Juliet Burnett, Marjorie Cooke, Eula Coley, friend of Peter Simpson. I know she visited sometime in Boston. Neville Dawes, Gloria Ellison, Maria Dyer, Marvin Douglas, Neville Donaldson, Maureen Spence, Clifton Fowles, Etta Francis, Gillian Francis, the valedictorian, April Gray, Machen Gray's daughter, Carl Graham, Stacy Gooden, and Joan. Can I see the rest of Joan's name? As we look, you recognize your batchmate, classmate, your own picture. Gerald Lawrence, Jacqueline Lewis in Florida. Winsome Lee, Laurel Jones, Hartnell James, and let me mention Lorna Green and Hyacinth Griffiths and Ina Lee Gordon and Pauline Hall as we move on. Some of your classmates and batchmates in these pictures. Again, bringing back memories. Glenn Shettle's work. I haven't seen him. Ian Singh, Leroy Samuels, Norman Samuels, Kenroy Russell, Hector Pennicott, and I remember Joseph Parkinson, Errol McKenzie, Marceline McKenzie, and I will mention Bernice McLean, Menice McInnes, Madeline McDonald, and Inez McDonald. Leon Samuels. So again, these are people from the class of 77, my seniors. Most of them, a lot of them, I wouldn't say most of them. I see Althea Spence, Sandra Spence Ball, Mert Sterling, Barbara Taylor Green. Look at Nicholas Thompson, Dwayne Thompson, Lena Vassiana, Jennifer Campbell. I see Jocelyn Wallace, and I see Laverne Walker. I know Laverne is from St. Anne. Arthur White, Errol White, Denton Williams. I should remember that, Denton Williams. And Marie Wilson, Audrey Williams. And these are, again, some of my seniors. And down memory lane. This is the student council. And let's see who I can make out here. There's Hewitt Johnson. There is Constant Lamont. There is Glenn Shettleworth. There is my batchmate Carlton Grant. My batchmate Cooke. Oh, that's terrible. Please forgive me. Penny Cooke. Became a lawyer and a judge. And These were members of the Students' Council. Again, going down memory lane. And my class, the class of 78, and here are calling names without showing pictures. So here are the H's, and I call all those names. I'll have to repeat myself. Wow, I was calling names and not showing pictures. So I'm going to run this quickly again. Front, Sharpe, Clark, Wallace, Bruce, Smith, Ricketts, Anthony, Hines, Edwards, Gillis. Second row, Gray, Bishop, Williams, Pennycook, Morris, Bennett, Oldacre, Jones, Niche, and Smart. And then the back row, Vassell, Gooden, Keith, Hogman, Henry, my roommate, J. Adams, Scarlett, Murdoch, Cameron, Duncan, Malcolm, and Mr. Neville Cunningham. I do apologize for the picture wasn't showing. And then, of course, with the K's, Fuda Stewart in the front, Daly, Bullock, Medley, Heron, Wood, Shaw, Scott Smith. In the middle, Tomlinson, Duncan, McInnes, Cooke, Edward, Wilson, Jennings, Hall, Aldrew, Peter Kane, and the back row, V. Grant, Mr. Dennis, Gorin, O'Connor, Cameron, Nelson, Clive Nelson, Moore, Blair, Wright, Vickers, Selvin Rose, and Barrett. And go back to the L's and do us again because I missed having the picture up there the first time. Please bear with me. Juliet Beckford, Hemmings, Finlayter, McLaughlin, Swaby, Dunkley, Noble, Hanson, Cameron in the second row, Blake, Parson, Gordon, Olive Gordon, Merlene Mendez, Winsome Graham, Wilson, Young, Morris, Dewey, Morris, and Alan Dawes. And then the back row, yours truly, Sylvester G. Bowie, Leon Spen, Dottie Vidal, Paulette Cookson, Carl Letman, D. Reed Barrett, Annie Thompson, and Wong. And of course, that takes. Here we have in the front row Scott, Dennis Easington, Lewis Hill, Campbell Samuels, McKinley, William Duhaney, Gilpin, Patrick White. In the second row, Mr. Peter Simpson, my friend in Boston. Mr. Beckford in Florida. Bailey Jackson Reed, Derek Collymore, Sutherland, Walters, Morrison, Stedman, Green, Brown. And in the back row, Jones, that would be Alonzo, Noreen Thompson, Daniel Fisher, Clark, Allen, Mitchell, Watt, O'Connor, and Henry. Those are the M's. Those are my batchmates. 19, the class of 78, graduated. A little history from Sharpe Teachers College. The groups 1975 to 1979, graduated 1978 through 1982. The investigating the environment, a winning science exhibition from 1980. Yours truly was involved in this one. And this is the winning team from I think this would be the group after us. This is the 1979 group. I see some of my juniors here. I can recognize some, including people that have passed. and I will not call any name to embarrass myself, but I know this brother has passed. I know this brother is now into music. Hey, I think this man is in the Bahamas. And this is an instructor. And let's see who else I know here. I not calling him. I think he's in. Is it the Bahamas? Might be. And I'll leave it at that. Everton, you're the man. And first report from J. Archard and Harris. And this is the sport committee. And let's see who we recognize here. Johnson, Miss Archard, the PE tutor. She left before I got there. These guys are my senior. Then there's Parkinson. There's Althea Spence. Hey, Coach Harris. And Mr. Bell himself, Mr. Bello. That was the sports committee from the class of 77. And we have individual photos of the class of 78, my class. I will not call names here. I will just identify a few people that, as a matter of personal privilege, Mr. Hector Bishop. You know what? I'm just going to call everybody's name, starting at the top with Beverly Allen, Beverly T. Allen. The next one, so the first one is Beverly E. Allen and then Beverly T. Allen. Diana Allen, I think Diana is now in Canada, that's what I've heard. Etta Aljo, Helen Bailey, Elma Barnett, Leroy Barrett, Ursula Barrett, Shirley Bernard, hey Shirley, Paulette Bernard, Groupie, Yvette Bennett, and of course Mr. Maxwell Beckford, the man with the green jacket out of Islington St. Mary, the off spinner who never made a team but knew that if he was on, the team would have done better because they could have done with his spin. He once made a cricket team in St. Mary, but there were only 10 men living in the community. Gloria Bolt, New York. Renford Blake, Sylvester Bowie, you're truly California. Dr. Gretel Bradford in Maryland. Donna Brumfield, Faye Brown, Mabel Bruce, Reverend Mabel Bruce, Melrose Cameron, done an awesome job as an educator. Leslie Cameron, Hyacinth, Mr. Errol Bullock, and Colin Campbell, recently retired as principal. Jennifer Campbell, Hilton Clark, Bev Cooke, Neville Cunningham, recently retired as principal. Pearl Crooks, Derek Collymore, still producing magnificent art. Paulette Crookson. I don't remember if Paulette is retired. Wouldn't be. I know Alan Dawes is retired, as is Vivian Douglas, Merle Duncan, Cynthia Edward, Paulette East, Dennis Easington. Where are you, my brother? We haven't seen you. Lily Mae Edwards, Marcia Finlayson, Dolores Fisher, Erica Gale, Dennis Gorin, Olive Gordon, Rena Gilpin, Beverly Gillis, and then we have Winsome Graham, Mr. Carlton Grant of New York, Mr. Grantley Green, just recently retired from the insurance industry, Mr. Ralston Gray, retired, Ennis Hansen, Faye Hemmings, Carl Hill, Murdell Heron, Mr. Keith Henry in Florida, still teaching, Juliet Henry, Lilith Hines, Yvette Irvin, Elaine Jackson, Lorna Jackson, recently retired, I think, vice principal of William Nibbs. These are all my batchmates. Some of them I still see. Mr. Johnson, Ronald Johnson, where I haven't seen you. Heard you're in Canada. Alonzo Jones, I think, retired. Lily James recently retired. Paulette Jones, Wilbert McFarlane, may his soul rest in peace. He was at Cornwall College, passed. Jennifer Malcolm, Florida. Katie Lingo Wilson, retired in Florida, back at it. Eileen Lewis. Noreen McInnes Green, Florida. Barbara McKinley, Sharon McLaughlin, I think in Florida. Patricia Medley, Dwayne Morris, where in the world are you? Sandra Moore, Vinette Moore, Merlene Mendez, good work. I think you're retired. Let me not retire anybody, so let me stop. Sharon Morris, Cicely Morris, Leslie Murdoch, I know he's retired. Lorna Miles, Lonnie O'Connor, Beverly O'Connor, Clive Nelson, I know he's retired but working again. Marcy McNish, Perletta Oldacre, Sonia Otti, Cleveland Parker, Montego Bay, Dorothy Parsons, Susie Q. I think I hear Susie Q is retired. Penny Cooke, let me not cast retirement on you. I think she's retired as a judge, but back at it. And Cat, like the great cricket coach, Grantley Reid, Herminia Ricketts, Selvin Rose, I think is retired, but back at it doing some stuff. Joan Segree, Noel Scott, Merlene Samuels, Henroy Quiet Samuels, Dr. Samuels, ministering. I'm not retiring him. Valerie Scott, Everton Sharp, Sharon Shaw, Peter Simpson, still working in Boston. Douglas Smith, Jennifer Wright, Jennifer Smart, Hope Smith, Les Maud Smith, Wilton South, Mr. Banker, Leon Spence, retired, Errol Stewart, still breaking record at the high school he's now principal at. Merton Sutherland, Errol Tomlinson, Norma Thompson, Annie Thompson, I think, retired. Florence Thomas, Denzel Vassell, Heather Vickers, Dorothy Vidal, Faye Wallace, Veronica White, Muriel Watt, Mevan Walters, New York, Olivine Wallace. I was running through that list without showing some of these folks. including people like Wilton South and Leon Spence. And I know I call him Leon Spinks, but Leon Spence, like Fuda, Errol Stewart. Then we have Murdell Whitaker, Jennifer Williams Dehaney, Merlene Williams, Vivian Williams, Marcia Wright, Andrea Wood, Erica Wilson, Annette Wilson, Winsome Henry, Justin Scarlett, Justin Buddle, Florida, Julia Clark. Marcia Wright, yes, I mentioned Marcia. And then we had the sports team from the batch of 78, like cricket team. We can see out front Greybeard, Fuda, and Mr. Letman himself. Now, not all the people in here. There is one person who's not from our batch right here. That would have been a second year player, but that was, I think, well, I see Bello in this picture also. But most of the people on this team were from my batch, except for the one second year beside coach, whose name I'm not remembering right at this minute. And then the football team, again, you'll see Bello in the mids. And of course, the netball team, these were all people from the class of 78 on that netball team. Then that was, and I rushed past this. So we'll just go to the coat of arms again, with members of the class of 79 and the class of 80. I think, well, I'll kind of just show it. This is G1, and next we have H1. And I'm sure people can recognize some of their own. So I think these were my seniors. No, I mean, not my seniors, but these are people who arrived there in 1980. So they would have graduated in 83, because I do recognize from H1 on the front row, Young, Frey, Rogers, Neville Tomlinson, and Benzie, Anderson, and Salmon. I do recognize those. So these people arrived when we were on internship. I think Neville Tomlinson is now a minister, Dr. Tomlinson. And that's H1. Then the next group is to find a name. Let's see how smart you are. You could pause this video and search for a name. You have people in here like Joy Mighty, Blossom Stokes, and Cecile Walden, you have Wesley Green, Carmen Sargent, Alice Rod, Gloria Roach. That's a name I had forgotten earlier on, as well as Redway, Miss Redway. But these are some of the names that you can find in here. So you could pause, take a screenshot, and see how many names you could actually find on your own. Document as we move forward, and this includes the principal report, and this I'm trying to see which year this was. You know, there's a lot of talk about CXC and what the college has done the last 2 years, and our new institution has just completed 6 years of work. Okay, so this was 1981, the year I graduated. And to date, just another 600 students have graduated as trained teachers. Graduates of the college can now be found working in all types of school in every part of the island. Many have gone to university abroad. This year, a number are entering University of the West Indies at Mona. Some have left the profession and are working in other fields. I sincerely hope that whatever our graduates are doing, that they're working with a sense of service and commitment and are always striving for excellence. There we go again. Service, commitment, excellence. The principal talks about the fact that the last 2 years at the college were not easy ones. We had to grapple with severe economic pressure. We were, however, able to weather the storm by introducing a number of self-help projects. For one whole term this year, the college provided all the chicken meat that was consumed, and we have now gone into egg production with 1,000 layers. The average production is about 700 eggs per day. During this period, the small dairy project produced about half the daily milk requirement for breakfast. We're particularly thankful to all the students who work so cheerfully on the different projects. Special mention must be made of those who work on the weekend in the kitchen and on the blocks. I think it is significant to note that all the domestic chores were done by students on the weekend for the entire year, and although this did create difficulty sometimes, especially near to examination, the majority did make the effort. So that the report in 1981, I was on internship then, and my juniors, the class of 79, that including people like Gillens, Hugh Solomon, and some of these folks who like really did human work to ensure that the college held up even as we faced tough economic times. And if we're not remembering, this was 1980 was the election year when there was a lot of food shortages. Things were being married. In order to get simple items, you had to buy other items that were of no use to you. So those were tough times, but as the principal indicated, we survived. There is also a message from the chairman, and I want to read a little part of this. Your request for a message for your magazine is to me another opportunity of expressing my joy of association with the institution that is brought to influence significant total life in Jamaica in general, but Western Jamaica in particular. This is already the experience of those of us who are in close touch with the school around. It is, however, on the graduates that we must depend for the fulfillment of the high aims and the aspiration we cherish. Addressing myself to them directly, I offer congratulations on graduation and sincere wish for a fruitful career, conscious of the tremendous effort they will have to make against the background of indiscipline in our society at large. Wesley A.F. Hewlin, JP, chairman of the board. And here, and we can see from in the back row, we have Miss Joy Mighty, Mrs. Davison, Miss Roach, Mrs. Cooke, Mr. Mosquito, Miss Hyman, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Plummer, Miss Jones, Miss Whelan, Mr. Crick, Miss Jackson, Miss Rod. Then in the front row, Mr. Dyer, Reverend Green, Mr. Lowe, Miss Gentles, Mr. Hewlin, the chairman of the board, Mrs. Redway, Mr. Clark, principal, Mrs. Walden, vice principal, Miss Stevenson, and Mr. Peterkin. That was the academic staff in 1981, my year of graduation. The administrative staff included Miss Buck, Ms. Allen, Mr. Samuel DeBurso, Miss McLeod, and Miss Richards, the administrative staff. And auxiliary staff included the housekeeping supervisor, Miss McLeod, and the people below in the back row, Miss Dryden, Monica Dryden, Miss Myrtle Allen, Mr. White, Mr. Ellis, I think a lot of people remember Mr. Ellis, Mr. Messon, Mr. Thompson, McLeod, and then at the front seated, Miss Campbell, Miss O'Connor, Miss Hewlett, and Miss Bryan. All these people were there when I attended, and I certainly have fond memories of all of these people. They made my life much better. This is from the president speaking. This is the president of the sports team for the class of 79, included a women's cricket team, men's cricket team, men's football team. Ball team and a table tennis team. So the champion volleyball team was Bogle House, Campbell, Murray, Bentley, Richards, and Anderson. And the table tennis team including Rodman, Solomon, and Henry. The intercollegiate relay team included Ronald Johns, who was passed, Glendon Lawrence, Arthur Gillens, and Hugh Solomon. Glendon, I think, is in the Bahamas. Gillens is in Florida. And Hugh Solomon, who became mayor of Montego Bay, I think is also in Florida. So there's a netball junior team and a netball senior team. Or there was. And here is the beloved, the Reverend Billy Cooke, the first music instructor at Sam Sharpe Teachers College, and he was certainly there when. Here's a little quiz for those who want to go down memory lane. It's Guess Who, and for those from the early years can recognize the gap tooth, or I should say the gap between the teeth, and recognize that that is, did you take your guess? Yes, it is Alice J. Rod. And it's from 1979. People in the audience, we also some scenes from work study, and these are people from the class of 79. I see Ronald Johns, and I see Ronald Johns, and I also see Lawrence, and let me stop calling names, but these guys are there with the chicks, and ooh, I think a chicken is about to lose its head. And like we also had residents at PEMCO, so this was the Granville group, and PEMCO group. So we had PEMCO and Rectory, and we had Granville. More work study. Again, Ronald John seemed to be having so much fun. Cattle, a couple of the cows out in the field. And as we continue to march down visit to Micah by members of the faculty, and you can see some people on the front that you can recognize. You can recognize Coach, you can recognize Mr. Lowe, among others. And so this has been a journey. This has been good reflection, and for some, I know it will be unpleasant memories as they see family members and friends that have passed on, classmates that have passed on, instructors that have passed on. But I hope for most that we continue to revel in the idea of service, commitment, and excellence. I want to end with the valedictory address by Gillian Francis at the class of 77 at the time of graduation. So I read this valedictory address by Gillian Francis. My Lord Bishop, Honorable President of the Senate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates, we have come to the end of an exhausting but profitable period in which we, the graduates, have gained valuable experiences. We deemed it a privilege to have learned, taught, and shared with the faculty of such a prestigious institution as Sharpe Teachers College, as well as with each other. It has been a period of self-searching and self-denials. There we got away from selfishness and self-indulgence. On behalf of the graduating class, I'd like to thank the staff of Sharpe Teachers College and the various schools in which we practice for helping us to realize our ambition. We assure you that we have benefited from your tuition. We have experienced changes of character, shaping and uplifting of morals, and our sense of values have been upgraded. You see, because of you, what you stood for, life has taken us on a new perspective. We can now join the professionals. Quote, with the help of God, end quote, you have led us from feeding on milk to feeding on meat. Quote, we are no longer babes and we will feed our young, stimulating their growth to make them fine citizens. You have fit us to live and we are fit to live with. We appreciate you. Oh, we have had our differences, but those only serve to make campus life more exciting and challenging. Challenges were thrown at us, left, right, and center. You helped us to meet them, and now, with the help of God the Father, we will help our young to face the challenges of life. A vast community lies before us. Our services are in demand. We are honored. Out there, the challenges are numerous, but we're not fearful. We will rise to them. We promise that we'll aspire for nothing less than excellence. God help us in devoting our lives to the service of our fellow men. Fellow graduates, remember the times when the going got rough and we felt that the only solution was to give up and to make a right about turn. But God was with us. What questions are we asking now? Let every man examine himself. The road was long and sometimes winding. There were times when we lost sight of our destination. The heartaches, the sleepless nights. It was worth it, wasn't it? Now we're strong enough to carry our children, every child's welfare in our concern. He isn't heavy. He's our brother. Remember, we are laborers together with God. The worker must receive the reward of his labor. We think of Sam Sharpe, the hero. He was a dynamic man and is held in esteem by our nation. He stood out against injustice. He fought for freedom. He encountered difficulties, but he never gave up until death. The cause was worthy. Our cause is worthy. To Sam Sharpe, we have an obligation. We must continue to fight. For freedom, let us free our people from the shackles of illiteracy, and freedom will be appreciated. To this end, we are fully committed. Daddy Sharpe persevered, we will too. Quote, being confident of this very thing, that he who hath begun a work in us, in you, will continue it until the day of Jesus Christ. Under God's guidance, we will continue in service, live up to our commitment, and strive always for excellence. Gillian Francis, the class of 77. And I say, in closing out this brief road of history pertaining to Sam Sharpe Teachers College, the pioneering group of 1975 through the group of 1979, that we who graduated from this institution, we will continue to live by the words of the founding principle, the words found on the shield, the coat of arms of the college. These words: service, commitment, excellence, service, commitment, excellence, service, commitment, excellence. I thank you and hope you enjoyed this brief journey down memory lane.